Hi and welcome to this Blueberry Markets video update with me, John Kibler, head currency analyst. In this video, we're going to talk about Bitcoin. Is the decline over? So recently we've seen Bitcoin drop through a key level of interest and has sparked a lot of selling in the market. But there are some comparisons that you can have with Bitcoin and other markets. So I'm going to talk about a little bit about the correlation between the S&P 500 and Bitcoin. And you can see here I've got a year overview of the two markets. You've got Bitcoin, which is in the blue, and you've got the S&P 500, the America's largest stock market, in the green. And you can see how correlated the two are, especially after sort of December last year. We've had this really close correlation between the price of Bitcoin and the S&P 500, and this is quite an interesting thing to look at because we want to identify, or what we can do is identify where the S&P 500 is, which can then help us identify where Bitcoin could go. Now, the S&P 500 we know has been declining. The reason why it's been declining is of a multitude of factors, but one of the main factors is the point of rising interest rates in line with rising inflation. So inflation is continuing to rise, which is making the Federal Reserve become aggressive in hiking interest rates, which in turn is having a negative effect on the market. There are other issues as well. We've seen energy prices move higher, so the costs of doing business globally has gone up extensively, so that is another factor that's putting pressure on the stock markets as well. So what does that mean? Well, if those factors are going to continue, then the S&P 500 could continue to decline, which in turn, if the correlation remains, means Bitcoin could drive lower. If the S&P 500 starts to bounce from a key level, then Bitcoin could bounce from a key level. That's the kind of gist of what I'm really talking about here. And that is a very minor situation. Like I said, there's other factors involved with both markets, but the general thesis here is that the markets are quite correlated towards each other. So let's go take a look at the Bitcoin chart at the moment and the prices of the Bitcoin market. We can see that price pretty much topped out at the previous highs around about that 65k mark, and we started to drop to the downside. Now for the past 4 or 5 weeks we've been consolidating around the 30k area with little direction. Okay, so we've had some large sort of volatility in and around this point without much direction. So we've just basically gone sideways here. Now the S&P 500 declined, so has Bitcoin. Bitcoin has dropped through this level quite aggressively, and it looks to be heading towards an area of support. So the next sort of stopping point really is around about that 20k level, or around about the 19,800 if you want to be really specific. We've got this kind of high from here, this previous consolidation before seeing large volumes break out to the upside. So the next sort of target area for Bitcoin could be down around about this 19,800 level. And does that coincide with anything on the S&P 500? Well, if we take a look at the S&P 500, we can see here that price is pretty close to this 37.21 level, which was an area where price has found support in the past, and price has obviously gone on that big bullish run from this previous area before. So we could still see a slight decline in the short term before a short-term bounce. Now, the selling is quite aggressive on the S&P at the moment. We're seeing lots of sellers. We saw a gap down in yesterday's market and price continued to sell off. So there could be an option for price to continue to decline. And there is a major volume level, so a high volume level, HVL at 3,400, which if price was to decline to this area here and bounce would be quite significant. I think if price was to get anywhere near there, there would be significant resting orders potentially at that point. Now if I just go back a couple of slides, we can see here that if the price was to head towards that 3,400 level, the next sort of level for interest would be the 10k mark. We had this technical breakout here. The high volume through that area is around about 9,047, but around about that 10k area would be the next stop. I think we'd see Bitcoin come before seeing that bounce. But the S&P 500 coming into a little bit of an area of support. If you were to see a bounce in and around this area, and you were to see some buyers stepping in, then I'd be looking for potential buyers to come in around about that 20k mark. If we flush through this level as well, the next point is going to be 10k, where on the S&P 500 we may be around about this 3,400 area. So keep an eye on your S&P 500. It's really important to keep an eye on this market. If we do start to see any kind of turns here, again, you're going to be watching sort of your data points as well, your inflation data points. We've got the FOMC meeting this week. Anything that could help the stock markets rise again could be beneficial to Bitcoin. So if you are trading that market, which you can do with Blueberry Markets on a CFD, then you could look for some potential opportunities there. Thanks for watching this video update. I hope it all made sense. If it did, leave this video a thumbs up. Subscribe to the YouTube channel to see some more Forex trading content. And I'll speak to you in the next video. Cheers.